Hello everyone, welcome to another Voice Essentials live hangout. It is so good to be spending this next 50 minutes or so with you, and I've had a good weekend. I hope you're also having a good weekend. As we know, many of you are in the Northern Hemisphere, so your weekend has not yet come to an end. And that is the case for our special guest today. Michelle will be joining us again, Michelle Markwart Deveaux. And we had her on the show around about 4 or 5 months ago. And Michelle and I have become good friends, and so I wanted to get her on the show again, mostly because I just like hanging out with her, and we have a really great time together. So I hope you're going to hang around with us as well. I know we're in for a lot of laughs. But most importantly, a lot of good information. Today we're going to be talking about what to look out for in a good singing lesson. And we kind of want to sort of pull back the curtain a little bit today and give you some insights into what on YouTube, which is terrific. But there does come a point, and I'm just seeing that my stream has paused, and I don't know why. Let me just double check that we're going to be okay, everyone, because I don't want us to have the stream go bad. I'm hoping that that's going to come good again. Why are you doing that, Mr. Computer? I certainly hope we're not going to have technical issues. Let me know in the comments section, everyone, if you can see what's going on. I don't know why it's doing that. It's back now. It doesn't seem to be back now. Hang on a second, everyone. I wonder if we can make... I do apologise. It's, as you know, if you've been watching the show for any length of time, you know that the technical thing... here we go, and it seems to be back up and running, and I think we're back. Dearie me, I hope we're okay. Well, you know, if you've been watching the show for any length of time, you know that we do run into technical issues. It's one of the big challenges of doing this, but we press through because we love doing these things together. If you haven't normally watched the show with us, welcome. It is so good to have you spending this time with us. We hang out together every Monday, Australian Eastern Standard Time at 2 p.m. And it's always good to have you. And every second week we have a guest. And as I said, we'll get to talking with Michelle in just a moment. Hey, just wanted to give you some news. I'm going to a conference next week, which I'm super excited about. If you've watched any of my videos, you will have often heard me refer to and use quotes from a book by an author called Leda Scarce. Now, I used to pronounce her name incorrectly, but I've since learnt it's Scarce, Leda Scarce. She's a singing voice specialist from the US, and I'm going to be going to a conference in Adelaide, which is right down the bottom, in the sort of bottom middle of Australia. And I'll be doing that next week. We'll still have a live hangout on the Monday because the conference isn't until mid next week, but I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm kind of hoping I get an opportunity to invite her onto the show because I just know she will be awesome. I think I'm going to fanboy it up a little bit because I just think her textbook is just the bomb, and so I'm hoping that perhaps in the future and maybe in the new year we can have her come and join us on the show. And I just want to very quickly too, before we go across to Michelle, I've actually neglected to highlight the fact that and say thank you on the live show for those of you who have contributed to the 50. We passed the 50,000 subscriber mark 2 weeks ago, or I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to say thank you to all of you. For those of you who regularly watch the show and participate and comment and like and share, thank you. It is because of you that we have got to this mark, and as you know, we are really together building a wonderfully supportive, encouraging, honest, but very intentionally supportive community, and we're building that culture together. And so thank you to all of you who are a part of that. If you're not yet a part of the community, then we would love for you to join us and subscribe to the channel and hit the white bell icon here on YouTube so that you're always notified of new videos. And we would love for you to engage. And of course, you can jump across to the Facebook community group page and the Voice Essentials community. If you search Voice Essentials community, you can join us and join in the discussion. And that's an even smaller portion of the Voice Essentials community here on YouTube, but it's a really active one, and you can share one performance per week of your own, and people comment, and it's wonderful. Please take an opportunity to join in if that's what you'd like to do. But before I go off on a tangent and start talking about other things, let's get to our guest, because I think we're going to have a lot of fun today with Michelle. We'll be right back after this.
Check. Check 1, check 2.
Hey, friend, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm a little bit.
Can I show you something?
You want to show me something?
Yeah.
Yeah, hit me. Very good. Isn't it fantastic?
Well, yes. I met Lita at the PAVA conference in August.
Uh-huh.
And she's awesome, and you will be fast friends, I think.
Very good. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to meeting her, and because her textbook is one of very few texts specifically written for the singing voice specialist, and so I'm really looking forward to meeting her. And yeah, I've been saying her name incorrectly all this time. I've been saying scarce, but it's actually scarce, apparently.
Scarce.
Scarce.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I'm glad I found that out before I went up and introduced myself. Oh, very good.
Probably be very gracious, but you'll love it. I mean, since we're talking about being, what to expect in your voice lesson and all that, maybe some of your clients can do a little peeky on the bookshelves inside of where they go and see. You really get a feel for what perspective.
What's the angle? Yeah.
By looking at their bookshelf.
I think you do. I really do think that's a good indicator, and it certainly it's one thing I think because these textbooks are expensive, right? So they're expensive. So people aren't just going to furnish their shelves with these books if they're not going to actually engage with them and read them and and dig deep into them. So I think you're right. I think that is a good indicator, and that is also a good segue for us to start chatting about. Well, first of all, because there will be people who haven't seen you on the show before, so we probably should introduce you to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Markwart Deveaux.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to meet you. Welcome to the new subscribers.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Dr. Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a big mark for an educational channel, and we've purposefully here on the channel decided not to sort of go down the purposeful sort of attractive model of the voice coach reaction videos, and we're not looking to just gather subs for sub's sake, I love it. I think we're building a good community, and I love everyone who participates so actively. So thank you. Yes, it was an exciting milestone to go past. But you are also doing like gangbusters with your Speak Easy collaborative. Cooperative. I keep saying collaborative. I don't know why I say cooperative. The Speak Easy cooperative. You of course have your own website, Faith Culture Kiss, which is at the bottom of your screen there. But tell us a bit more about the cooperative. What is it? Because I think it'll give people a good insight into you and what we're going to talk a bit more about today.
Oh, sure. So I started the Speakeasy Cooperative March 2017. because I saw that there was a need for independent voice teachers to have a place to talk about how to run their businesses well as independent voice teachers, while also being continually learning and growing in their pedagogy, their teaching style. As you know, independent teachers, which many of your subscribers probably go to rather than collegiate teachers, we work with a huge range and a demographic of students. So people who wanted to make sure that they were serving their clients in all genres as well as they could, people who wanted to serve multiple ages, but most of the formalized voice teacher communities that we have are very much centered around either specific demographic of student, pre-professional and professional, or they're focused around academia and the experience of when you are an employee getting paid to be a voice teacher and a researcher, rather than someone who is doing this as their livelihood and that they share. So the Speaking Bee Cooperative was born to be that place, kind of like an incubator meets a mastermind meets just a really cool support community.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
That's awesome.
And if you're listening, then call me, yo.
Call me.
Dr. Dan.
Yeah.
You should be a part.
Look, maybe I should. Maybe I should, because you're outing me. I'm not yet a part of the Speakeasy Cooperative, but I do watch on, and I know many of your cooperative buddies, and in fact we'll be having one of them on again in the show in 2 weeks.
Who?
Shannon Coates is coming back on. Now she's a part of the cooperative, isn't she?
She is, and so is one of your fantastic moderators.
Yeah, so is Karen, and so I am out of step, aren't I? I am out of step with all.
Would be our first Australian teacher.
I'm not yet a part of the cool kid group.
But you're welcome. See, that's the cool thing about the cooperative is that we know we're the cool kid group, but we're also not going to like push you down the stairs and tell you you're not allowed to be a part of us.
If we read that response in a particular way, I could read that as, yes, we acknowledge you're not a cool kid, but you can still be a part of the group.
Right, because that makes you a cool kid as well. I have no shame.
No, I know.
Don't try to catch me in my words, because I'm just gonna like take the joke and just run. Going.
I'm up for the challenge. Let's get back on task, because otherwise you and I could be here one-upping each other for the rest of the afternoon. So let's talk about this challenge, because we exist in a what's the right word? A non-regulated industry, don't we? And just like any industry, there are good singing teachers and there are not so good singing teachers. And especially with the advent of places like YouTube and Facebook, the socials that empower the ability to build what's referred to as social proofing, and create a suggestion that that a person is something that they are not, and how do people go about, do you think, sorting through that? Because when I want to go take my car to a mechanic, I'm not a mechanic. I have no idea. I drop my car off. I hope that person is going to do the right job by me. When they change the oil, I hope that they've done that. And how does a person who is not a trained singing teacher, how do they find that person that is going to do the right thing by them? And their voice, more importantly.
Right, like how you mean a trained singer?
Yeah. How does the singer find that person? Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think the first thing is people that you know that are taking lessons, ask them who they're taking lessons with and why they like their teacher.
Yeah.
And I know that it seems a little grumpy to say word of mouth, but if you already have people in your community that are taking singing lessons, ask them first. Now, many people around the world don't have that reality. So to me, the second question is, when you have your initial contact with that teacher, are they focused on how they can empower your goals and keep you healthy and efficient? Or are they focused only on how you sound?
Yeah.
Because if someone is only concerned about how you sound, that person is probably a coach rather than a singing teacher or a technician. I think there's some really strategic questions that singers can ask. And one of those questions would be, tell me a little bit about your process with beginners. And asking the teacher to repeat back what is important to them, what they believe technically that is important to start with, getting a feel for the approach that the teacher is going to have. And this requires singers to be pretty savvy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think sometimes singers think, oh, I want to take singing lessons. And this is not a put down, but this is just, like you said, there's The Voice and Australia's Got Talent and America's Got, I mean, there's all these like people just go up there and sing. They get coached for like 10 minutes because that's what made it not on the editor floor.
Yeah.
And they think the process that's very quick. And so they see, oh, well, I'm going to go get singing lessons so that in like a month I can be a great singer. It's like, no, that's not how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing yourself well enough to know about what your real goals are.
Yeah. And
knowing that just because you sound good or just because you have a natural penchant for singing doesn't mean you know how to sing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like being a runner or an athlete.
Yeah.
Like, I know just because someone can run doesn't mean that their body is efficiently running in order to do that well at an elite level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think any singing teacher has the goal to create elite singers, even if that singer is not going to become a professional. You can still be an elite singer without having elite status in the professional world.
Love it. Yeah. Absolutely. And I love what, because I've actually done a video on this very subject, and for those of you who want to go searching for it on the channel, you certainly can later. I would encourage you to do so. It's where I differentiate, as you just did, Michelle, the difference between a vocal coach, or sometimes they're called repetiteurs, stylist coaches is another term that might be used, between that person who has their place, and they're definitely someone that can really add value to your development. But there's a difference between that person and a singing teacher who wants to really zone in on not what you do, but how you do it, and really get, dig down into the mechanics of your voice. And then I guess a singing teacher is more focused on process over product, whereas a stylist, a voice coach, might be more, focused on product more so than the process.
Right. And I think again, back to, I love your channel, and I love Karen's channel too, because they're so much more realistic about what this is.
Yes.
And one of the things that I wish all singers understood was that you cannot do the stylistic things that a coach is going to ask you to do well and long term.
Yes.
If you do not have a physiological understanding and a coordinated understanding and the development of the fine motor skill of singing that will come through with a singing teacher or a technician or a specialist.
Yes.
And when you get to be a professional, you have both anyway. Like you have your singing teacher and your coach in opera, musical theater, pop, rock, jazz. Like you have both. You have the person that keeps you in elite athlete status.
Yeah.
And then you have the person that says, hey, I know what the people like. Let's gussy this up over here. Let's do this. But, you know, most professional coaches that I know, like elite coaches, they don't try to pass themselves off as voice teachers at all.
Yeah.
They're like first people to be like, I don't know how you make that sound. You need to go talk to your teacher about that, but this is what I want you to do.
This is the sound we want. Go and see the singing teacher about how you can do that efficiently and with a sustainable setup. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if someone, I think that the more, what I've always found is the more high professional people that I've worked with, the more they are willing to look at a singer and say, I don't know how to solve that. And I'll either send you to someone else or I will figure it out.
Yeah.
By reaching out to my network, my books, my collaboration, you know. And so I would say maybe that's another good thing for a singer to look for. If you go to a singing teacher and they say they're going to fix all your problems and they can like take you from 0 to 10 in like 3 months or 60, whatever they say, you know, just they might be able to do that, but just be careful. Because
Michelle, do you think they really can? I mean, and this is the thing, because in modern society, Australia is no different to America in this, and that is, and I think this is a Western culture phenomenon / issue / problem at the moment, and that is we live in a society that's driven by immediacy. You know, I want everything yesterday. I don't want to have to work for it. I don't, you know, and I do see the singers on the talent shows going from 0 to hero in 10 weeks. And why can't I do that? I should be able to, you know, and here's the deal. And you would have tricks up your sleeve, as I do, as most good singing teachers do have what I refer to as masterclass magic tricks, where I can do things to the voice that cause an outcome. But the outcome is momentary. If you come back tomorrow, the voice won't remember how to do that. You know, and so what happens is, I think a lot of people fall prey to the idea that, you know, we do up this, we create this style, and because that gives us the product, we're not so given to recognizing that the product may not be serviceable over the long term, but I don't care because I just want the product now.
Well, that's a maturity issue.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's get real. You want to be a good singer, you got to put on your mama panties. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I'm sorry. I hope you're on a 7-second delay.
That's
sorry.
That's all right. My wife calls them the big girl undies.
Well, I love her.
Yeah.
This is why I love her.
Yeah.
Okay. More to my point in a nicer way. If you want to develop a skill, you have to develop the skill.
Yeah.
Information does not make you good at something.
Yes.
So if you want to be good at something, especially something that is literally a fine motor skill because of the neurology of it and how our bodies work, you have to actually do it. I mean, how do you learn to write letters? You write the same letter over and over and over and over again. That's a fine motor skill. I do want to say something to your point, though, about can you really get it done in 6 weeks? Because I love what you just said about the masterclass thing. And this is where I think it can get tricky. Because if you have never had a voice lesson, ever, and you go to 6 weeks of voice lessons, you will see exponential growth.
You absolutely will. Yes.
And and I think that's whether you're kind of a chamois voice teacher or like an awesome sauce voice teacher. Like, you know, it's kind of like if you're sitting on the couch forever and then you go walk for 6 weeks, you will inherently be more healthy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So,
I love where you're headed with this. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, but just this idea that like when you choose to take lessons, you should see growth in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
And
you should
it's
walk
not
away after the
until,
first lesson having experienced some change.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think where the singer can take responsibility is really saying, okay, what genre am I interested in? What teacher not only understands the genre but the technical intricacies of that genre,
Yeah.
knowing that I'm not going to sing an Italian aria the same way that I sing, a blues jam,
Yeah.
or I sing a gospel squall and wail, or
Yeah.
a musical theater, legit musical theater piece is still even different than an art song, right?
Yes.
And knowing what genres that teacher feels really good about. Also asking, again, back to the process. What is your process?
Yeah.
And I will say that there are a lot of really great teachers that actually don't even know their own process, which to me, that's sad, because they could be giving so much more to their clientele if they could verbalize their own process, right? Which is kind of the business side of things, right? Like in an academic environment, you don't have to prove really yourself because you have built-in clients, right?
Yeah.
They come to the school, they don't have to really explain why we're going to talk about breathing first, or why we're going to do semi-included vocal tract exercises before we do sirens in order to engage both registry, but independent teacher, it would behoove them to know why they're doing everything they're doing, so they can really take that singer through the process, so the singer doesn't feel lost. Like, well, okay, we just breathe for 20 minutes. So, because the singer doesn't know, why is it important to breathe?
Yes.
Well,
there are reasons.
I do think that's kind of where you find out, in our generations at least. I don't think our students anymore, I think that our students are super smart.
Yeah. And
I just don't think that it's not the same where you just listen to a person just because they told you to do something.
Yeah.
You want to know why they told you to do it. And your brains have developed differently since this thing came out in 2008.
Yeah.
All they have to do is like go and Google, why does my voice teacher make me breathe?
Yeah. And so we live in the age of why, don't we? We live in the age of, don't just tell me how, tell me why, and then I'll do the how. And I think people want to have both. And I'd be bold enough as to suggest that really there is no longer any excuse. In fact, when I first did pedagogy here in Queensland, voice pedagogy, and this is back in 2000, the year 2000 was my first pedagogy course at a university level, and this was being said way back then. So I know this is so much more the case now. There really is no longer any excuse for a singing teacher to not have basic anatomy knowledge, a basic understanding of how resonance works, and resonance is a big subject, but at least a basic knowledge, for them to have a basic understanding of the difference in the technical setups. There is so much information available now in 2018, so much more than there was in 2000 when this comment was first made to me. And so I love the way you used the word behove earlier, so I'm going to use it also. It behoves singing teachers to be around this stuff. And I would say that if after a number of 2 or 3 lessons a teacher is not showing themselves to have an understanding in that space, if you're starting to have some questions about the depth of their knowledge, that doesn't mean that they haven't got something to give you. Something that I often say is, I think every singing teacher has something to give you. It's just that some teachers have more to give you than others. And that being said, no one teacher can give you everything you need. And so it's a matter of knowing when you need that particular teacher for that part of your journey, and for knowing when that chapter, or maybe it's even multiple chapters, come to an end, and that relationship, a good singing teacher relationship, the relationship, all things being equal, shouldn't break down into, hateful disconnect. It should be, God bless you, we've had a wonderful time. It's time that you stepped into your next chapter.
Yeah, I mean, well, you want to talk about going far? I'll go far enough to say that if your teacher doesn't look at you and say, it's my job to work myself out of a job with you, then they're not there really serving you. They're there serving their ego.
And it's not truly student-focused learning, if that's the case.
Sure.
That's teacher-focused learning.
Sure.
And
now, I do love to play both sides.
You be the devil's advocate. Go.
Well, I'm a Libra, so I gotta do the both thing.
That would mean something to me if I knew what the horoscope. I'm a shocker. I know nothing of these things. I think I'm Aquarius. No.
I don't know. I don't know anything other than it's balance and that I like both sides.
Right. Okay. Well, I can't dispute that. So you go for it.
Awesome. You know what? Someone can Google it for us, and we'll figure it out.
Someone can let us know in the chat.
I was going to say, what was I going to say? Oh, that the other thing is that singing teachers are allowed to not have to tell you why they're asking you to do something. If they know what they're trying to get you to do. Because sometimes students are too why focused, and then no actual singing happens. So you go to sing, the person's like, well, why is this? Why is that? And, I have those students where I have to say, you get to sing for 15 minutes, and then you get to ask me questions for 5 minutes. But ultimately, you need to be singing in order to learn to sing. So I would say that sometimes teachers purposely don't, explain every little thing, and this is what we're doing. We should know why we're asking the student to do what they're doing. We should. But it's okay, I think, if a teacher says, not time for questions, I'm happy to answer your questions in 5 minutes or something.
So let me. This is not a pushback against that, but I think it speaks to that a little further. That really speaks to a relational trust, doesn't it?
Yes.
And this is where, and I don't know how you feel about what I'm about to say. So you may resonate with this, you may not. Let's find out. Okay. I personally think I know, certainly over the last 10 years, it's been a big thing. I've seen it said online that, there should be no power imbalance between student and teacher. It should be this equal thing. I understand where that's coming from. I kind of get that. And I'm not into a teacher lording it over their students, because again, that just means that the space is a teacher-focused space.
Sure.
But equally, I do personally believe that there is an appropriate relationship between student and teacher, between teacher and learner, that is built on trust and respect, and that it's two-way. But nonetheless, unfortunately, any law space will tell you there is a power imbalance between student and teacher. And I think it behoves us, I get to say it again, it behoves us to acknowledge that as teachers, but also to acknowledge that as students, and therefore as a student, that, look, if you're handing over a certain level of money, if you've done the homework we were talking about earlier about finding out who to go to apply that certain level of trust in the teacher, that they don't have to give an account for themselves as to why they're doing what they're doing.
Sure.
How does that sit with you?
I think it depends on the student.
Uh-huh.
I do, because I think like, you know, if this is like a grown person,
Yeah.
I would say, what is your motivation, student?
Uh-huh.
Like, let's get real. If you come to me and you want to have a voice lesson with me and your goal is to like try to figure out what I know, then you're not going to be a good fit with me.
Sure.
Because I know what I know, and
Yeah.
I know how I can help, and I will tell you this is what I can do, and this is what we will do together, and
Yeah.
you will do this. But if a student is genuinely just curious, like, hey, I've noticed in every lesson that we always start with a breathing exercise, or
Yeah.
I know that every lesson you make me pretend that I'm painting while I'm singing or whatever.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? I think that's okay,
Oh.
especially if the teacher, especially if the student is also curious about teaching in some level, because ultimately that's where you know, that fine line between just because you know anatomy and science doesn't mean you're a good pedagogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because pedagogy is the art of teaching,
Yeah.
not the art of knowing a bunch of vocal science.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So the vocal science empowers the pedagogy.
Yes.
For sure. Again,
Yeah,
it's that lever, right? I see both sides of it.
You and I are saying exactly the same thing. You know, I'm not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that that power imbalance would ever suggest that a teacher doesn't have to give an account for why they're doing what they're doing.
Sure.
Never the case. But I think we do see it, and you would get these inquiries also. I'll get the phone will ring, it'll be an inquiry on the phone, and they'll be saying, so why should I come to you? And it's like, okay, straight away that now, even if the person doesn't intend for this to be the case, straight away that suggests to me that maybe the relational pattern is not going to be set up well, because it immediately puts me in a position of needing to prove myself to the client, and I can't just simply do that by verbalizing, you know, because they want to know who's the famous person that I've taught, and I'm not into celebrity culture, so I'm not into because every voice is different, and I don't care if they're a celebrity voice or a, you know,
Sure.
person straight off the street. And so I just think there's a nuance there. There's a nuance of relationship, which is really important when we're learning. You want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think that so again, I think this is where it becomes your responsibility, students out there. Is if you're calling a teacher and saying, why should I come to you? Your motivation for learning to sing, you need to check that.
Yeah.
And are you really wanting to learn to sing, or are you really wanting to do something that makes you feel powerful and validated?
Yeah.
By being connected with someone who is perceived as a star or important or famous.
Yeah.
Now, there are lots of ways. I just said this in a forum the other day. There are lots of ways to feel powerful and wonderful about yourself. But learning to sing is probably not going to be that way unless you're very clear about what the process is.
Yeah.
And if I can I like go on a bunny trail just real quick about that process?
Hop away.
I think sometimes students think that learning to sing is quick. I think they think that learning to sing is about getting some information and then being able to apply that. Not realizing that learning to sing is an entire physiological process that not only takes time, but that the teacher has spent an enormous, I'm going to just assume awesome teachers right now, right? Like just forget the people who aren't great teachers. Let's just assume that we have amazing teachers.
Yep.
That person has spent years developing their own skill.
Yeah.
They have spent years in formal and informal study and continuing education. They have to know how to run a business. So they're not, your voice lesson isn't paying for the hour that you're standing there or that you're online with them. That's not what your money is paying for, friends. Like, your money is paying little kids dinner. It's singing, it's understanding that those teachers are not just getting up in the morning and thinking, hey, this will be fun if I make a buck doing this. It's like their entire life is around, how do I bring out the best possible outcomes for people who are not yet efficient and coordinated in their bodies?
Yeah.
We have to know physiology. We have to know anatomy. We have to know vocal science. We have to know psychology and counseling tactics.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, there's so much that your singing teacher brings to the table in order to get you to make a sound that isn't horrible.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm not trying to be rude to singers right now. I'm trying to give people a reality check.
It's all about the reality check. Absolutely.
This is going to take you at least a year. Just stop trying to do it in a month. Don't. And here's the thing. If you really want to learn to sing, now I'm going to throw down. I'm getting throw down. I'm throwing down. If you really want to do this, forget the bi-monthly and forget the monthly. Save up your money and do 6 months to 18 months of continuous study weekly. Pay the money, do the thing. If this is really what you want, you're going to have to invest in it fiscally. You're going to have to invest in it with your time. You're going to have to invest with it with your newfound learning skills of music theory. Hello. Right? Like, don't say you want to be a good singer and then not step up and do the work.
Yeah.
And and I've said this to students before who call me and say, well, I'll just come I can't afford that, so I'm going to come once a month. And I say, no, you know what? You save up for 6 months and then you come for 6 months.
Yeah.
But don't do this once a month thing. And I'm talking about beginning singers. Like, my professional singers, obviously they already have some training. They're coming in for seasoning. They're coming in for retuning, refining, getting it back all on track. But if you've never taken a voice lesson before, do yourself the favor and invest long term.
So it all comes back to, doesn't it? It all comes back to work ethic, doesn't it? And at the end of the day, and I find myself occasionally saying this to singers, I can't do the learning for you. I'm just the signpost. I'm directing you and helping and guiding. But I can't walk the journey for you. You have to do the work yourself.
True.
You've got to go. When you leave the studio, that's, in many respects, that's when the learning actually takes place. That's when the activity is happening. Between lessons, a good lesson is simply, directing you and giving you tools, and they're little signposts along the way. But at the end of the day, you must take responsibility for your own journey. And yeah, exactly
Great.
what you're saying.
It's, I think, just to be nice to the singers again, because I just went off on them for a little while. I mean, they come by it honestly. If you've never taken a lesson before, you don't understand what it's about. And everything, like we were talking about earlier, everything is pointing to this unrealistic situation about how one learns to sing. And, it's weird telling this on YouTube to a YouTube singing teacher, but even though you get so much information from listening to the YouTube lessons, from listening to all of that, one of the things that the actual teacher is going to give you that a recording or a YouTube video will never give you, is a set of ears.
Can you say that again? I think we might have missed that.
Oh, I said one thing you're never going to get from YouTube or recordings or whatever is a set of ears.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these puppies are our biggest resource.
Yeah.
As your singing teacher, we have trained these little puppies.
Yeah.
To be able to identify even the smallest unnecessary tension.
YouTube will never, ever be able to diagnose, correct, and refocus. And it's exactly like one of the biggest assets in the studio space is your teacher's ears, and for that matter, their eyes, isn't it? For them to be able to see things, because, yeah, and we say this, and in fact, I made this comment last week on the live show. Something that I'm trying to do much more often, and I'm not always getting it right, but I do want to say it more often on my YouTube videos, and that is, they are general in nature. They cannot and are not designed to, and I don't think they should give you specific information to your voice.
But how could, I mean, yeah, because
how can it?
they?
How can it? It can't. And so...
And you know, the other thing, oh gosh, now I'm getting all riled up.
So you can be riled up for another 3 minutes.
Okay, so I don't even remember who this was, but I saw one of my students sent me a video of a teacher, like, critiquing another teacher, like watching a teacher. I've never seen this. This was new to me because I don't hang out on YouTube a lot. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But they sent me a video, and it was one teacher watching another voice lesson and then like tearing apart what was happening in that voice lesson. Have you seen this? Is this a thing?
It's the voice coach reacts videos are massive on YouTube at the moment.
Okay.
And I have seen a couple of instances of a voice coach reacting to the video of a instructor of another teacher. You know, yes. So it's a thing. It's not a cool thing, but it's a thing.
It's just deeply concerning to me.
Yeah.
Because any teacher, I mean, I think that is so mean, because you can't take 5 minutes out of a lesson and say, like, judge an entire person's pedagogy and an entire person's process. Like, I mean, I don't even know who this person is, but when I watched this video, I was so deeply concerned. And I had to say to my student, like, this is swear words.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
It speaks more to the person doing the reaction video than it does to the teacher teaching.
It was really disturbing, but what it communicates is, like, if that's where you're going to be, like, looking, is kind of back to that, like, this stuff takes time.
Yeah.
And that, you know what, sometimes you're going to be doing really funky, weird, silly things with your body and with your voice and with your breath in order to get you kind of in the back door to a coordination, to a sensation, or to an understanding of your, you know, different proprioception, like what you feel in your body.
Yeah.
And, like, to pull that out. I mean, I would be mortified if someone came in and saw some of my lessons. I'm having them do donkey noises and, like, you know, laying down on the ground and lifting their leg. It's like, you know, if you judge that without context.
And you and I both know that sometimes we explore and experiment with our clients in order to find that lock and key that opens the door, and this speaks back to what we were saying earlier. Sometimes there actually isn't sometimes I'll get a student to do something, and I'll say to the student, look, I'm about to experiment. I haven't read this in a textbook. This is going to be, we're just going to explore and experiment together, and me bringing my knowledge into this singular moment, I can't even explain why I'm about to do what I'm about to do. Let's see what happens.
But you're able to do that because you have this body of knowledge. We talk about this a lot, actually, in the Speakeasy Cooperative, is that when you are a solid pedagogue, you are constantly drawing from a canyon of knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's never just one thing.
No.
That you learned that you're just plucking out and putting onto a student. It's that you have this whole bucket of awesome that you're able because you are smart and savvy and understand how people learn, to reach in and create your own thing for that student.
And to the point at hand, if that moment was, for example, put onto YouTube, I would probably look at it and go, what on earth is going on there? But yet, in that moment, in the context of that moment, it makes complete sense of what's happening, because both the student and the teacher have entered in together on an exploratory journey around the pedagogy. So I agree. There are some troubling things that I'm seeing more and more on YouTube, and which is why I tend to try and steer away from that sort of behaviour.
Well, I didn't mean to start bad blood or anything.
No, that's all right. No names have been mentioned, so unless someone outs themselves, there should be no ramifications. I'm looking at the time. I have a student that is about to arrive in 9 minutes. And so, yes, that's right, people, I'm a real singing teacher. Who would have thunk it?
Play on YouTube.
Yeah. And we're not going to get to questions. There've been, as always, there's been an array of fabulous questions. Linda, thank you so much for taking down all of the questions for today. But actually, Linda, if you can just make a note of those. I'm speaking now to one of our moderators. Linda,
Sure,
if you can take the questions down, and I'll attempt to answer the questions next week. I do apologise. We've run out of time, as I kind of thought we might, Michelle, because you and I are birds of a feather, and I knew that we would be able to as I said, what did I say earlier? Talk the leg off a chair. So
talk the legs off a chair.
Talk the legs off a chair. So I think we are going to have to call it there, and I hope we have covered some really good ground. I think we have. The whole idea of today's conversation, everyone, was really to give you an opportunity to kind of look at it from the perspective of a singing teacher, and to understand that, there is a lot of intention that goes into what's happening. You don't just walk in the door and we play, some scales and take your money. There is a lot more to it than that. So, Michelle, if you want to just hang around for a second, I'll just wrap up. If you want to say goodbye to everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
So good to have you.
I love hanging out with Dr. Dan's community. Thanks for letting me come.
You're a champ. We'll get you back in the new year, hopefully. Ladies and gentlemen, that was another live hangout. I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and I certainly did. Michelle is so much fun, and we'll have her back on the show in the new year. If you're new to Voice Essentials, please take a moment to subscribe. Hit the white bell icon so you get the notifications. We hang out here live every Monday, and we talk about all things voice, not just what we've talked about today. A whole range of things. And next week, we don't have a special guest. Next week, we're going to be able to dedicate some time to your Q&A, questions and answers. My apologies that we didn't get to that today. We've run out of time, and many of you, it's time for bed. Many of you have to go off and push some Z's, as I know Michelle does as well. I look forward to seeing you again in the next Voice Essentials live hangout. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.